The meeting hall was darker than usual. Emergency lights cast long shadows across the curved walls of the Galactic Tribunal building. 12 different alien species sat around the massive circular table, and fear filled the air like a bad smell. Counselor. Yethra looked at the holographic display floating above the table. Red dots marked the fallen worlds. Too many red dots. Her blue skin had turned pale, and her 4 arms shook as she pointed at the screen. "Sector 7 is gone," she said. Her voice was quiet, but everyone heard her. "The Keth Mori took it yesterday. That makes 15 sectors in 3 months." The other council members made worried sounds. Some clicked their claws on the table, others flapped their wings nervously. The big Draxan warrior, General Corks, slammed his fist down hard. "This is impossible," he roared. "My people have fought wars for 10,000 years. We know battle. We know how to win. But these creatures..." He could not finish his words. Everyone knew what he meant. The Keth Mori were different from any enemy they had faced before. Their ships were not built from metal and circuits. They were grown, living ships that could heal themselves, ships that learned from each battle and became stronger. "They eat planets," whispered Ambassador Zexahai from the corner. The small gray alien had survived the attack on Kepler 190. "I watched them. Their ships landed and they consumed everything. The trees, the rocks, the water, even the air. Then they grew bigger, made more ships." Silence fell over the room. Outside the tall windows, they could see other alien ships in the stations, docking bays, ships that had fled from the advancing Keth Mori fleet. Refugees filled every available space, and more arrived every day. Yethra touched a button, and the display changed. Now it showed their military forces. The numbers were not good. "The Velthari Psychic Fleet," she read from the list. "Destroyed. At the Battle of Crimson Nebula, the Zephyrian tech ships tried to use their best weapons. The Keth Mori ships absorbed the energy and used it against them." General Corks growled deep in his throat. His own ships had fought bravely. His soldiers had died with honor. But honor meant nothing when the enemy could adapt to any weapon in minutes. "What about the Crystalline Empire?" asked Minister Poltax. His insect-like face showed worry. "There. Diamond ships are the hardest in the galaxy." "Gone," Yethra replied. The Keth Mori developed acid weapons specifically to dissolve crystal. It took them 2 hours. The room fell quiet again. Some aliens prayed to their gods. Others just stared at their hands or claws or tentacles. Then Admiral Vextar spoke up. He was old even for his long-lived species. He had seen many wars and survived them all. "There is one option we have not discussed," he said slowly. Everyone turned to look at him. His red eyes were serious. "The humans," he continued. Several aliens made disgusted sounds. General Corks laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "The humans. Those primitives? They barely have space travel. They only left their home system 50 years ago. They are Death Worlders," added Ambassador Zexahai. "They come from a planet so dangerous that most species cannot even visit it. Heavy gravity, deadly weather, poisonous plants, and predators everywhere." "Exactly my point," said Admiral Vextar. "We think of them as primitive. But they survived. On a world that would kill most of us in minutes, they built civilization while fighting nature itself every day." Yethra pulled up information about humans on the display. The data was limited. Humans kept to themselves mostly. They traded with a few species but never joined any major alliances. "Look at their entertainment," she read. "They create stories about war constantly. Movies, books, games, all about fighting and winning against impossible odds." "Entertainment means nothing," General Cork said, but his voice sounded less certain now. "Does it?" asked Admiral Vextar. "They also practice combat sports for fun. They jump out of flying vehicles with cloth parachutes. They climb the highest mountains on their world just to see the view. Some humans even go into space with minimal protection just for excitement. The room was listening now. These facts about humans had always seemed strange to other species. Most aliens avoided danger. Humans seemed to seek it out. "There are reports about their ships," continued the old admiral. "They are small but heavily armed. Every human vessel carries enough weapons to fight ships 3 times its size." "But they only have a few hundred ships total," protested Minister Poltax. "That we know of," Vextar replied. "Humans are secretive about their military. They never show their full strength." Yethra was looking at more data now. Her expression was changing from hopeless to thoughtful. "According to our intelligence, humans solve problems differently than we do. When we face an enemy, we try to match their strength. Humans find weaknesses and exploit them. They call it asymmetric warfare." She read more from the files. "In their history, smaller human armies often defeated larger ones using unexpected tactics. They study their enemies carefully and then attack in ways no one expects." General Corks was quiet now. His warrior pride wanted to reject the idea of asking primitives for help, but his practical mind was working. He had lost too many good soldiers to the Keth Mori. "Even if we wanted to ask them," he said, "why would humans help us? We have barely spoken to them in 50 years. "Because," said Yethra, standing up from her chair, "we can offer them something they want. Full membership in the Galactic Union. Access to all our technology, all our trade routes, all our knowledge." The other council members looked at each other. This was a huge offer. Humans would go from being outsiders to having equal status with species that had been traveling space for thousands of years. "It is risky," admitted Ambassador Zexhai. "If humans join the Union, they will have access to everything. Our military secrets, our technology, our weaknesses." "What weaknesses?" asked Admiral Vextar with a bitter laugh. "The Keth Mori have already found them all. We have nothing left to hide." The vote was closer than expected. 7 species voted yes. 4 voted no. 1 abstained. It was enough. Yethra began composing the message to Earth. It was short and direct. The Galactic Union needed help. In return, they offered full membership and all the benefits that came with it. As she sent the encrypted signal toward human space, she wondered if they would even respond. Humans were unpredictable. They might ignore the message completely. They might demand more in return. They might even decide the Keth Mori were not their problem. What she did not expect was what actually happened. The humans said yes immediately. Not only that, but they said their ships were already on the way. Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy sent a simple reply. "Hold your positions. Human fleet will arrive in 3 weeks. Threat will be neutralized." The confidence in those words should have been reassuring. Instead, it made Yethra feel strangely uneasy. How could humans be so certain they could defeat an enemy that had crushed every other military force in the galaxy? She was about to find out. Admiral Vashkol stood on the bridge of his flagship and felt satisfied. The Devourer of Worlds was a magnificent creature. Its living hull pulsed with a slow heartbeat. Organic tubes carried nutrients and information throughout the ship. The bridge itself was grown from modified bone and cartilage. Through the large viewing membrane, he could see his fleet spread across space. 50,000 bioships of various sizes floated in perfect formation. Some were small and fast, like hunting insects. Others were massive, their bellies full of the biomass they had consumed from conquered worlds. "Report," he commanded. His voice was a deep rumble that vibrated through the ship's nervous system. "The industrial world of Kepler 442b has been fully processed, Admiral," replied his tactical officer. The creature's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. "We have gained 2.3 million tons of useful materials and 400 new combat organisms." Vashkol nodded. This had been their most successful harvest yet. The planet had been rich in metals and manufacturing facilities. His ships had landed and begun the consumption process. Within hours, every factory, every building, every scrap of useful matter had been broken down and absorbed. "Any resistance?" he asked. "Minimal. The local defense force tried to fight with projectile weapons. We adapted our armor in 12 minutes. After that, they surrendered." This was always the same story. Species throughout the galaxy built their weapons and defenses based on old ideas. They used energy beams, missiles, and kinetic weapons that had not changed much in thousands of years. The Keth Mori bioships could adapt to all of these within minutes. "What is our next target?" Vashkol asked. His navigation officer consulted the living computer interface. Tendrils of organic matter connected directly to his brain, allowing him to access all available data instantly. "The mining colonies in the Tau Beta system, Admiral. Rich in rare metals, low population, minimal defenses." "Excellent. Set course immediately." As his fleet began to move, Vashkol reviewed the tactical reports from his subordinates. Every battle followed the same pattern. His scouts would find a target. His main fleet would arrive and demand surrender. Most species tried to fight. Their weapons would work for a few minutes, maybe an hour at most. Then the bioships would develop immunity or countermeasures. After that, it was just harvesting. "Admiral," called his communications. "Officer, we are receiving long-range sensor data. There appear to be ships approaching from the direction of the outer rim." "What kind of ships?" Vashkol asked. He was not worried. His fleet had faced every major military force in this part of the galaxy. All had fallen. "Unknown design, Admiral. The sensor profile does not match any species in our database." This was mildly interesting. Perhaps one of the minor species had developed new ship designs. It would not matter. New ships still used the same basic weapons and defenses as old ones. "How many ships?" "Approximately 200, Admiral." Vashkol laughed. The sound echoed through his ship's organic corridors. 200 ships against 50,000. It would not even be a real battle. "Continue on course. If these unknown ships interfere with our operations, we will deal with them appropriately." Meanwhile, deep in space, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of the UES Indomitable. Her ship was different from anything the aliens had ever seen. Where alien vessels were smooth and curved, human ships were angular and purposeful. Every surface served a function. Every system was designed for maximum efficiency in combat. "Status report," she ordered. "All ships report ready, Admiral," replied Commander Martinez from the tactical station. "Stealth systems are operating at full capacity. The enemy fleet shows no signs of detecting us." Chen nodded. Human stealth technology was something special. It did not just hide ships from sensors. It bent light around them, absorbed electromagnetic radiation, and even masked gravitational signatures. The Keth Mori bioships might be advanced, but they were still bound by the laws of physics. "What do we know about the enemy?" she asked. Lieutenant Park pulled up the analysis on the main screen. "Bioships, Admiral. Living vessels that can adapt to weapons and tactics during battle. They have defeated every major military force in this sector." "Adaptation time?" "Reports suggest they can develop resistance to energy weapons in 15 to 30 minutes. Kinetic. Weapons take longer, maybe an hour." Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "They have been fighting predictable enemies using predictable tactics. Time to show them something new." She walked over to the main tactical display. It showed both fleets, the massive Keth Mori force and her own much smaller human fleet. The numbers looked impossible. Any sane military commander would retreat immediately. But Chen was not just any commander. She was the product of human military evolution. Her species had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. Every human conflict had taught them something new. Every defeat had made them stronger. "Remember," she said to her bridge crew, "these creatures have never faced humans before. They have adapted to fight aliens who think like aliens. They use conventional tactics and predictable strategies. She touched controls on the display, showing different attack vectors. We do not think like other species. We do not fight like other species. When everyone else runs away from danger, humans run toward it. When everyone else tries to avoid risk, humans embrace it. The crew nodded. They had all studied the reports from the alien refugees. The Keth Mori seemed invincible because they could adapt to any threat. But adaptation required time and predictable patterns. "Sir," called the sensor operator, "we are detecting movement in the enemy fleet. They are changing course toward the Tau Beta mining colonies." "Perfect," Chen replied. "That puts them exactly where we want them. All ships prepare for Operation A. Sledgehammer." In the weapon bays throughout the human fleet, crews made final preparations. But these were not the energy weapons or guided missiles that aliens used. Human weapons were different. Humans had learned long ago that sometimes the simplest solutions were the best. Relativistic kill vehicles sat in their launch tubes. They looked like simple metal rods, nothing more. But when accelerated to 90% of light speed, they became weapons of incredible destruction. No shield could stop them. No armor could withstand them. They were invisible until impact because nothing could outrun light itself. Quantum torpedoes waited in their special launchers. These weapons existed partially outside normal space-time. They could phase through shields and armor as if they were not there. The aliens had never seen anything like them because aliens thought in 3 dimensions. Humans thought in 11. "Admiral," reported the tactical officer, "all ships are in position. Enemy fleet is maintaining predictable formation. We have target locks on all primary vessels." Chen looked at the display one more time. In a few minutes, everything would change. The galaxy would learn what humans were truly capable of. "All ships," she broadcast to the fleet, "this is Admiral Chen. Today we face an enemy that has conquered every military force they have encountered. They think they are invincible. They are wrong." She paused, letting her words reach every human. "Crew member in the fleet, these creatures have never fought humans before. They do not understand what we are. They see our small numbers and think we are weak. They will learn otherwise." Another pause. "Weapons are authorized. All ships fire on my mark. Show them why Earth is called a death world." The human fleet moved into final attack position. The Keth Mori continued their course, completely unaware that death was approaching at relativistic speeds. The attack began at exactly 14:27 to 33 Galactic Standard Time. Admiral Vashkol was reviewing harvest reports when his ship's nervous system suddenly screamed warnings throughout its organic hull. Alarm chemicals flooded the bridge as biosensors detected massive energy signatures approaching at impossible speeds. "What is happening?" he roared, his claws extending automatically as battle instincts took over. "Admiral!" His tactical officer's voice was high with panic. "Incoming projectiles, multiple vectors, they are moving at... This cannot be correct. Report!" Vashkol demanded. 90% light speed, Admiral. At least 30,000 individual projectiles." For a moment, Vashkol could not understand the words. 90% light speed meant the projectiles would arrive almost as fast as the sensor data about them. There would be no time to evade, no time to adapt, no time to react. The first wave hit, 30,000 tungsten rods, each. One accelerated to relativistic speeds, struck the Keth Mori fleet simultaneously. The physics were simple and brutal. At such speeds, a small metal rod carried the destructive force of a nuclear weapon. Bioships that had survived 1,000 battles simply ceased to exist. The kinetic energy released by each impact was beyond anything they had evolved to handle. Entire vessels vaporized instantly, their organic hulls unable to withstand forces that could crack planets. Admiral Vashkol watched in horror as his magnificent fleet died around him. The Devourer of Worlds shook as nearby ships exploded, their destruction creating expanding spheres of superheated plasma. His bioship's defensive systems tried to analyze the attack, tried to find a way to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt. 2. Pure kinetic energy could not be countered or absorbed. "Damage report!" he screamed over the ship's pain screams. "Fleet strength down to 60%, Admiral. We have lost 30,000 ships in the first 10 seconds. 10 seconds. In 10 seconds of combat, the humans had destroyed more Kethmori vessels than any previous enemy had managed in entire campaigns. But the attack was not over. Even as the first wave of destruction spread through his fleet, Vashkol's sensors detected something else. New projectiles were approaching, but these were different. They flickered in and out of normal space-time, phasing through dimensions that bioship senses could barely detect. "What are those?" he asked, pointing at the sensor display. "Unknown, Admiral. They appear to be some form of matter that exists partially outside our reality." The quantum torpedoes struck with surgical precision. Each one had been programmed to target specific ship types, command vessels, supply ships, and the massive biofactories that created new organisms during battle. The torpedoes phased through, shields and armor as if they were not there, then materialized inside their targets. The explosions were different this time. Instead of the raw destruction of kinetic weapons, these were precise and devastating. Each torpedo released exotic matter that unraveled molecular bonds, causing ships to collapse from within. Vashkol's flagship lurched as a quantum torpedo materialized inside its secondary brain cluster. The devourer of worlds screamed in agony. As critical systems failed, half of its tactical abilities vanished instantly. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving surrender offers from multiple ships. They want to abandon the fight." "No!" Vashkol snarled. "We are Kethmori. We do not surrender. All ships, begin adaptation protocols. Find a weakness in these weapons." But even as he gave the order, he knew it was hopeless. How could they adapt to weapons that moved too fast to detect? How could they counter attacks that ignored physical laws? The third wave of human weapons was different again. These were conventional antimatter missiles, but they moved in patterns no alien military had ever seen. Instead of flying straight toward their targets, they danced through space in complex spirals, making them nearly impossible to track or intercept. "They are learning our evasion patterns in real time," reported the tactical officer. "Every time we try to dodge, they adjust their course." This was human tactical thinking at work. While aliens built adaptive weapons, humans built adaptive tactics. Their missiles did not just seek targets, they analyzed enemy behavior and predicted responses. The antimatter warheads began finding their marks. Each explosion released pure energy, matter and antimatter annihilating each other completely. Bioships that had spent millennia evolving perfect defenses were torn apart by forces that could not be evolved against. Admiral Vashkol realized his fleet was doomed. In less than a minute of combat, these unknown humans had reduced his mighty force from 50,000 ships to fewer than 5,000, and the attack showed no signs of stopping. "All ships," he broadcast on the fleet communication network, "emergency scatter. Break formation and retreat." It was too late. Human hunter-killer squadrons had already anticipated this move. They had positioned themselves along every possible escape route. As Kethmori ships tried to flee, they found human vessels waiting for them, with weapons charged and targeting systems locked on. The human ships were smaller than the bioships, but they moved with deadly precision. Each one was optimized for combat efficiency. No wasted space, no unnecessary systems. Every cubic meter was devoted to weapons, shields, or engines. "Admiral," his navigation officer reported, "all escape routes are blocked. The humans have surrounded us completely." Vashkol could not understand how this was possible. His fleet had been in open space with room to maneuver in every direction. How had 200 human ships managed to surround 50,000 Kethmori vessels? The answer was simple. Humans had been planning this battle long before it started. They had studied Kethmori tactics from reports provided by alien refugees. They knew exactly how the bioships would respond to attack. Every possible move had been anticipated and countered. "Time elapsed since first shot?" Vashkol asked quietly. 28 seconds, Admiral. 28 seconds. In less than half a minute, the mighty Kethmori hegemony had been reduced to scattered survivors. The fleet that had conquered sectors and devoured civilizations was dying. The final attack came from the human flagship. Admiral Chen's ship had been holding position throughout the battle, its weapons trained on Vashkol's command vessel. Now it fired a single shot, a focused beam of zero-point energy that tore through space-time itself. The Devourer of Worlds tried to adapt its shields to the new energy type, but zero-point energy was not something that could be adapted to. It was the fundamental force of reality itself, weaponized. The beam struck the bioship's main brain cluster. For a moment, the ancient vessel fought to survive, its organic systems struggling to maintain function. Then, with a final scream that echoed across all communication frequencies, the Devourer of Worlds died. Admiral Vashkol felt his ship's death as if it were his own. The neural connections that linked him to the vessel went dark. Emergency life support activated, but he knew it was over. At 14:28:03 Galactic Standard Time, exactly 30 seconds after the first human shot, the Battle of Kepler 442 ended. The Kethmori invasion fleet had been completely destroyed. 50,000 bioships reduced to debris and scattered survivors. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Chen reviewed the tactical display with satisfaction. Every target had been eliminated with precision and efficiency. Not a single human ship had been lost. Not one crew member had been injured. "Impressive work," she said to her officers. "Clean kill, minimal collateral damage." She opened a communication channel to the surviving Kethmori vessels, fewer than 50 ships from an original fleet of 50,000. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy," she broadcast. "You are surrounded and disarmed. Any attempt to flee or resume hostilities will result in immediate destruction." The response came quickly from one of the surviving bioships. The voice was broken and filled with despair. We surrender. Please, do not destroy us." Chen considered the request. Human military doctrine was clear about dealing with genocidal species, but these survivors might provide useful intelligence. "You will power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded," she ordered. "Any resistance will be met with lethal force." As human Marines prepared to secure the surviving ships, Chen composed her report to Earth Command. It was brief and professional. Kethmori, invasion fleet neutralized. Battle duration, 30 seconds. Human casualties, 0. Threat to galactic civilization eliminated. Fleet returning to patrol duties. She paused, then added one final line. "Recommend increased diplomatic contact with alien species. They appear to have been significantly underestimating human military capabilities." The news traveled faster than light itself. Within hours of the battle, reports flooded communication networks across the galaxy. At first, most species dismissed them as impossible. The Kethmori fleet destroyed in 30 seconds? By humans? It had to be a mistake, or propaganda, or some kind of elaborate hoax. But then, the evidence began arriving. Refugee ships that had been fleeing the Kethmori advance suddenly stopped receiving pursuit signals. Scout vessels sent to investigate found only debris fields where the mighty biofleet had been. The wreckage, stretched for millions of kilometers, twisted metal and organic matter that had once been 50,000 warships. In the Galactic Tribunal emergency session, Counselor Yethra stood before the assembled representatives with shaking hands. The holographic display behind her showed the battle site, now marked with human patrol ships maintaining security. "The reports are confirmed," she announced to the shocked assembly. "The Kethmori invasion fleet has been completely eliminated. Total human casualties, 0." The silence in the chamber was deafening. Then everyone began talking at once. "Impossible!" shouted General Corks. "My intelligence says the humans only had 200 ships." The battle lasted 30 seconds, Yethra continued, her voice cutting through the noise. "According to our long-range sensors, the humans used weapons we have never seen before. Relativistic kinetic weapons, quantum torpedoes, zero-point energy beams." Ambassador Zexhai raised one of his thin arms. "What about survivors? Did any Kethmori escape?" 43 ships survived, Yethra replied. "They are currently in human custody. Admiral Chen has agreed to transfer them to tribunal justice, but she wants something in return." "What does she want?" asked Minister Poltax. Yethra activated another display, showing Admiral Chen's message to the tribunal. The human woman appeared, calm and professional, but there was something in her eyes that made several aliens uncomfortable. "The Admiral wants access to all tribunal databases on military technology and tactics used by member species over the past 1,000 years. She says it will help humans better defend galactic civilization in the future." The request sent a chill through the assembly. Humans wanted to study how every species fought. They wanted to know the strengths and weaknesses of every military in the galaxy. "This is a reasonable request," said Admiral Vextar. "Humans have proven they can protect us from threats we cannot handle ourselves." "Or," countered General Corks, "they want to know how to defeat us if they decide we are enemies." The debate that followed lasted for hours. Some species wanted to give humans everything they asked for. Others worried about revealing military secrets to a species they clearly did not understand. While the tribunal argued, emergency meetings were taking place in government centers across the galaxy. On the Velthari homeworld, High Psychic Mordeth gathered his most powerful telepaths in the crystal chambers deep beneath the capital city. Their mental voices echoed through the psychic network that connected their entire civilization. "We must reach out to human minds," Mordeth commanded. "We need to understand what drives them, what makes them so dangerous." The psychics focused, their abilities toward human space, trying to touch the alien minds that had just reshaped galactic power. What they found terrified them. Human thoughts were different. Where Velthari minds were elegant and flowing, human consciousness was sharp and angular. Their thoughts moved in patterns that hurt to follow, and underneath it all was something that made every psychic recoil in fear. Violence, not the hot rage of warriors like the Draxan, or the cold hunger of predators like the Kethmori. This was something else entirely. Humans thought about violence the way other species thought about mathematics, as a tool to solve problems. "They are not angry," reported Psychic Yelvana, her mental voice shaking. "They destroyed the Kethmori fleet without anger, without hatred. It was just efficient." "Withdraw from their minds immediately," ordered Mordeth. "We do not want them to know we were there." On Zephyria Prime, the Council of Engineers worked frantically to understand human technology. Their greatest scientists analyzed the sensor data from the battle, trying to figure out how humans had built such weapons. "The relativistic weapons are theoretically possible," reported Chief Engineer Toxler. "But the energy requirements should be enormous. How do they power such systems?" "Look at these quantum torpedo readings," added his assistant. "They exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. Our best theories only account for 7. "And this zero-point energy weapon," said another engineer. "It should be impossible to control. The energy density would destroy the ship firing it." The more they studied human technology, the more worried the Zephyrians became. Their own ships were considered the most advanced in the galaxy, with weapons and defenses that had taken millennia to develop. But compared to human systems, they looked like primitive toys. "Send a message to the capital," ordered Toxler. "Recommend immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. We need to establish friendly relations before they decide we are a threat." Similar conversations were happening on dozens of worlds. The Crystalline Empire called emergency sessions of their parliament. The insectoid collective activated their hive mind defense protocols. Even the peaceful gardener species began preparing their ships for possible evacuation. But perhaps the most interesting reaction came from the artificial intelligences of the Machine Federation. These ancient computers had been analyzing galactic conflicts for thousands of years, always remaining neutral and objective. Now their primary processing centers were running constant calculations about human capabilities. The results were disturbing. Probability of human victory in conflict with any single galactic species, 99.7%, reported the central AI to its distributed network. Probability of human victory against combined alliance of all species, 73.2%. Recommendation: avoid all actions that might result in human hostility. The machines had reached the same conclusion as every other intelligence analyst in the galaxy. Humans were not just another species. They were apex predators who had somehow remained hidden until now. Back at the Galactic Tribunal, the debate was finally reaching a conclusion. The vote was unanimous. Humans would get access to whatever information they wanted. The alternative was too dangerous to consider. Counselor Yethra sent Admiral Chen a message confirming the decision. The reply came back within minutes. Thank you for your cooperation. Human technical teams will arrive at Tribunal Station within the week to begin data collection. In return, Earth commits to responding to any future threats against galactic civilization. The message included detailed specifications for human ships and weapons that would be stationed throughout Tribunal space. The numbers made several counselors faint. Earth was deploying 500 patrol ships immediately, with 2,000 more on standby. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a planet. But what really terrified the aliens was the final line of Admiral Chen's message. Please note, these forces represent standard patrol strength for human space. Our primary battle fleets remain in Earth system and will not be deployed unless galactic civilization faces extinction-level threats. Primary battle fleets, plural. Ships so powerful that the force that had just eliminated the Keth Mori was considered barely worth mentioning. As the reality of the situation began to sink in, species across the galaxy started making the same decision. They began drafting friendship treaties with Earth. They offered trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and technology sharing, anything to ensure human goodwill. None of them wanted to find out what would happen if humans decided they were enemies. The age of human dominance had begun, not through conquest or intimidation, but through the simple demonstration that Earth's children were the most dangerous species in the galaxy. And the humans seemed genuinely surprised that anyone found this remarkable. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler, 442, the galaxy had settled into what historians would later call the human peace. It was not peace through conquest or fear, though fear certainly played a role. It was peace through the simple understanding that war had become obsolete. No species dared risk attracting the attention of humanity's military. On Tribunal Station, Counselor Yethra reviewed the quarterly reports with amazement. Galactic conflicts had dropped to zero. Trade disputes were being resolved through negotiation. Even the notoriously aggressive Draxon had started using diplomacy instead of weapons. "It is remarkable," she said to her aide, a young Velthari named Kextar. "We have achieved something that thousands of years of civilization could not accomplish. Complete peace. At what cost?" Kextar asked quietly. His psychic abilities let him sense the underlying anxiety that permeated every alien mind in the station. Yethra understood what he meant. Yes, there was peace, but it was the peace of prey animals hiding from an apex predator. Every government in the galaxy spent their time trying to avoid anything that might displease humans. The irony was that humans seemed completely uninterested in galactic politics. They continued their exploration missions, their trade routes, their cultural exchanges, exactly as they always had. If anything, they were friendlier than before, more willing to share technology and knowledge. This somehow made everything worse. I have reviewed all human communications from the past 6 months, Yethra continued. They genuinely seem to believe they are just another species. They do not understand why everyone is treating them differently. She activated a holographic display showing the current disposition of human forces. The numbers had grown since the initial deployment. Earth now maintained permanent patrol fleets in 17 sectors, with rapid response forces positioned at key strategic points. Look at their deployment pattern, she said, pointing to the display. It is not aggressive. They are not trying to control territory or resources. They are positioned to respond to threats against any member species. Threats that no longer exist, Kextar observed. Exactly. They have created a perfect deterrent. No one dares start a war because they know humans will intervene. And humans will not start wars themselves because... She paused, struggling to understand the human mindset, because they do not want to, Kextar finished. Our psychics have been studying human thought patterns for months. They genuinely prefer peace and cooperation. They only become dangerous when threatened or when protecting others. This was the paradox that kept galactic leaders awake at night. The most powerful military force in known history belonged to a species that actually meant what they said about friendship and cooperation. The door chimed and Admiral Vexatar entered the office. The old military officer looked tired. His job as Tribunal Defense Coordinator had become much easier and much more stressful at the same time. The monthly human liaison meeting is starting, he announced. Admiral Chen wants to discuss the new patrol routes. The 3 aliens made their way to the conference room where Admiral Chen waited with her staff. The human woman looked exactly as she had 6 months ago, calm, professional, and completely unaware of the terror she inspired in every non-human present. Counselor Yethra, Admiral Vextar, Chen greeted them with what humans called a smile. Thank you for coming. I wanted to discuss some concerns my superiors have raised about our current deployment. The aliens tensed. Were humans unhappy with something? Were they planning to withdraw protection? Or worse, were they planning to change from protectors to conquerors? What concerns? Yethra asked carefully. Earth Command thinks we may be overextending ourselves, Chen explained, activating a tactical display. We have been maintaining constant patrols for 6 months now, and there have been 0 military incidents. Command wonders if we really need this many ships on station. The relief in the room was almost visible. Humans were not angry or planning conquest. They were worried about wasting resources on unnecessary patrols. I have advised against reducing our presence, Chen continued. Peace is fragile. It requires constant maintenance. But my superiors point out that we have other responsibilities throughout human space. Admiral Vexatar found his voice. What other responsibilities? Chen looked at him with surprise. Exploration, mostly. We have discovered 17 new habitable worlds in the past year. Colony ships need escorts. Research stations need protection. And there are still uncharted regions beyond the galactic rim. The casual mention of 17 new worlds sent another chill through the aliens. Humans were expanding constantly, finding new resources and establishing new settlements. Their growth rate was unprecedented. How many human worlds exist now? Yethra asked. About 50,000, Chen replied without thinking. Then she noticed the shocked expressions around the table. Is that a problem? 50,000 worlds. Most galactic species had a few dozen planets at most. The mighty Draxan Empire controlled only 200 star systems. But humans, supposedly primitive newcomers to galactic civilization, had spread across 50,000 worlds. When did humans begin this expansion? Admiral Vexatar asked weakly. About 300 years ago, Chen answered. After we developed reliable, faster-than-light travel. Why do you ask? 300 years. In the time that most species spent debating whether to colonize a single new world, humans had claimed 50,000. and apparently they saw nothing remarkable about this. Each world has its own defense fleet? Kextar asked. Of course, Chen nodded. Standard doctrine requires every colony to maintain minimum defensive capabilities, usually about 100 ships per world, depending on local conditions. The simple mathematics was staggering. 50,000 worlds, each with 100 ships minimum, meant at least 5 million human vessels. The force that had destroyed the Kethmori represented less than 0.01% of human military capacity. Admiral Chen, Yethra said carefully, could you tell us about Earth's primary battle fleets, the ones you mentioned in your reports? Chen's expression became more serious. Those are classified, I'm afraid, but I can tell you they have never been deployed outside the Sol system. Earth Command reserves them for threats to human civilization itself. How large are they? Admiral Vextar pressed. Large enough, Chen replied simply. Is there a specific concern? Has intelligence detected a new threat? The three aliens looked at each other. How could they explain that the threat they were worried about was sitting across the table from them, completely unaware of her own terrifying nature? No immediate threats, Yethra said finally. We are simply trying to understand human capabilities better. Chen nodded. Understandable. Interspecies cooperation requires clear communication. Would you like me to arrange a tour of one of our patrol ships? It might help you understand our capabilities and limitations. The offer was made with genuine friendliness. Chen actually wanted to help aliens understand human technology better. This was either incredible naivety or supreme confidence. That would be very educational, Yethra agreed. After the meeting ended and the humans left, the three aliens sat in silence for a long time. 50,000 worlds, Admiral Vextar finally said. 5 million ships, and they consider the patrol, fleet that destroyed the Kethmori, to be a minor deployment. They genuinely do not understand what they are, Kextar added. To them, this is normal. They think every species expands and militarizes at the same rate. Yethra was reading reports from across the galaxy. Every government was reaching the same conclusions. Humanity was not just the dominant military power. They were beyond any possibility of opposition. The combined fleets of every other species would be outnumbered 50-1. What do we do? She asked. We do exactly what we have been doing, Admiral Vextar replied. We stay on their good side. We be helpful allies. We never give them a reason to see us as threats. And we pray, added Kexitar, that they never realize what they really are. Outside the station, human patrol ships continued their routes through space. Their crews were friendly and professional, always ready to help with emergencies or assist with technical problems. They invited alien officers aboard for tours and training exercises. They shared their food, their entertainment, and their stories of Earth. They seemed like any other species, just trying to get along in a complicated galaxy. But every alien who met them came away with the same realization. Humanity was not just another species. They were something new and unprecedented. They were a civilization that had weaponized peace itself. The galaxy had entered a new age, one where the greatest military power in history belonged to the species that least understood its own strength. And perhaps, the aliens thought, that was the only thing that kept them all safe. After all, the most dangerous predator was often the one that did not know it was hunting.